We're gonna be doing some baking here today in the kitchen, not outside. Let me tell you, it's gonna be worth it because we're gonna be making some blueberry cornbread with Grenadine honey butter. All right, so we have our oven preheating to 375 degrees. But before we mix up our cornbread, we need to get the Grenadine honey butter ready. Now we're starting with 3/4 of a cup of unsalted butter. And this may sound strange since unsalted butter, I'm gonna add just a pinch of salt. It really needs just a little bit. And that's just a pinch of kosher salt. Next, we're adding 1/2 cup of honey. And with the way my voice is after this cold and everything, honey sounds good. Finally, we're gonna add a 1/4 cup of grenadine. Now, you can spend a lot of money on grenadine, which is sort of a pomegranate flavored syrup used a lot in mixed drinks, or you can just get sort of an ordinary one, and that's what I got. Nothing special, not super expensive, adds great flavor. And we are just gonna mix this up, and it's gonna take a while. Because even with that softened butter, we've got to incorporate these looser ingredients, especially that grenadine. Now, if you want to soften your butter more, put it in the microwave, that's fine. I just set it on the stove while the oven was preheating. So I'm going to switch spoons here to get a larger spoon. All right, I'm going to go ahead and transfer this into a shallow bowl. I'm going to spread this out. We're going to put this in the refrigerator to chill down, sort of solidify a bit while we move on to making our cornbread. So for our cornbread, I'm starting with a mix. If you want to make it from scratch, go ahead. Very easy combinations of cornmeal, flour, sugar, baking powder, some salt. But honestly, you're gonna end up with about the same thing. What I'm using here is a Bob's Red Mill cornbread mix. This is a gluten-free one. I'm just using that because we have people in our family who can't have gluten. You can just use a regular one or any cornbread mix you want. So to this, I'm adding 1.5 cups of milk, 2 eggs, 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. We're gonna mix this together before we add our blueberries to this. So make sure you don't have any of those dry ingredients left in clumps. Looking good, smelling very corny. Now we're gonna add a cup of fresh blueberries that have been washed and dried. We're just gonna sort of mix these in as gently as possible. Cornbread batter can be pretty thick, so we don't wanna really smash these blueberries up too much. I wanna try and keep as many of them whole as possible. All right, let's get our pan out here and get it ready. So the pan I'm using today is my cast iron pie pan. I want to give this cornbread a little bit of a different presentation. I think this will work well. But we've got to grease this up with some butter very thoroughly. And this pan has been sitting on the stove while the oven preheats, so you can see the butter is just sort of melting onto it. Sure we get down in those corners. Now we're just going to fill our pie pan. This amount of batter is usually for about a 9 by 9 inch baking pan. So now you just got to work it around in here. See, some areas are going to be a little bit heavier in blueberry. That's okay. Those people who get those slices will get extra. To me, cornbread is always sort of rustic. I like that about it. And this is going to rise up a little bit. Trying to work this down here, even it out. All right, that's looking good. Let's get it in the oven. All right, we're gonna check this in about 20 minutes. It won't be done at that point, but that's when we're gonna top it with some salted pecans. All right, let's see how we're doing. 20 minutes, there you go. What I wanna do is I just wanna place some salted pecans on here. They'll toast a little bit, and you wanna kind of press them down a little bit, just so they sort of break the surface. You could also, if you wanted to, sprinkle some brown sugar on top. You could brush some melted butter. but this probably has about 10 or 15 minutes to go. And I just want to do a quick check and see how it is doing. Just using my temperature probe to see. Yeah, there's still stuff sticking on it. It's hard to see, but it is there. So we're gonna go about 10 more minutes and then we'll give it a good check. Oh, looking good. All right, it's been about 30 minutes. That is looking good. All right, we're gonna take this out. We're gonna let it cool for about 10 minutes. Still want it kind of warm when we put some of that Grenadine honey butter on a piece. Bring you back when we're ready to serve it up. All right, here we go. Blueberry cornbread with Grenadine honey butter. Now, in looking at it, I think I probably should have gone about 5 more minutes. You can tell that the inner part here, the center, is thicker than the outer part. Little bit doughy there. It's not bad. I've eaten plenty of cornbread that way. It's great. But if you don't want that little bit of a sort of a wet cornbread center, you want to make sure you check that center really good. But no harm, no foul. It's still going to be great. Looking great here with this Grenadine honey butter melting. Put a few blueberries here that have been dusted in some powdered sugar just to look nice. Nothing else left to do here. It's time to taste. I'm going straight here in the center. Again, I don't mind that little bit of a moist part to the cornbread, but 5 more minutes I think would have been optimal. Got some blueberry, got some of that Grenadine honey butter. Let's see. Wow, that Grenadine honey butter makes this. Perfect amount of sweetness on here. The blueberries are nice too because you get that little bit of fruity punch, but oh man, this is good. And you could use this for a dessert, for sort of a sweet side dish. Honestly, just for a treat. I would just eat this for a snack. And when you get one of those blueberries that have been buried inside and you bite into it, oh, so good. And those salted, roasted pecans on top. Nice little contrast to the sweetness. So if you like cornbread, don't be afraid to change it up a bit. Add some blueberries, some other fruit to it, and if you can, make something like this Grenadine honey butter because that takes great cornbread and turns it into something extra special.